Okay, I think I've pressed the right button, and I think I'm recording, so this is really good. So this is another one. Thank you so much if you're watching. This is another one of my interviews where people have been so generous, and they've said, I've asked them this really weird question of, what can I interview you, being completely nobody, and they're like, yes, okay. And they've obviously thought, well, he's pretty desperate, and this might stop him taking that extra bit of medication that might tip him over the edge. So people have been really generous, and I've got another fantastic person here who I've known for years, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But I just wanted to say, because I need to say this, I know that I talk too much. Okay, so I know that certain people have pointed out that the interview is not about me, it's about the other person. I get it. I just get really excited. I can't help myself. And I said this the other day in a video. I genuinely do get really, really excited. I'm like a child in this situation. So apologies for speaking too much. I will try to hold my tongue. And this lovely lady is Annie Castro is coming from Luxembourg today. So there's going to be a delay. So it's even going to be more testing for me to kind of bite my lip when she's talking. So having said that, having said that, I'm going to say hi to Annie Castro, who's just a fantastic person I've known since university, and she's just a really great spirited person. This interview came completely by chance. She's doing some cool stuff. She started a new blog, and she contacted me, and I read the blog, and it's brilliant what she's trying to do. And in the spirit of just asking everybody, because I'm desperate, I said, "Would you do an interview?" And she was really gracious and said yes. So, how you doing, Annie?
Yeah, good. How are you?
I'm really well. I'm really pleased to see you, and you're looking really healthy and well. And I see little bits of you, as we all do. I see little fragments of your life on Facebook, and you look like you've got a fantastic family. And you've recently-ish moved to Luxembourg, I think.
Yeah. So we moved in July last year. Do you know where it is?
July comes between just after. Isn't July just before August? And is that right? So Luxembourg, tiny little country. Yeah.
Population 500,000, and only 40% of those, I think, are actually from Luxembourg. The rest is all expats.
Wow.
Yeah,
I didn't know that bit. Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah. So I think sorry.
No, you carry on.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think so. Like actual Luxembourgers, as they're called, I think it's only about sort of 300,000 or 400,000 in the world. So yeah,
wow,
quite a country. And
so the obvious place to start, just before we get back into a little bit of context for who you are, is why Luxembourg and why now? Just so we can kind of touch base on that.
Okay, I've travelled a lot as a kid. We lived overseas quite a bit, on and off. My parents were travelling with the Navy, and I just always loved that opportunity to have seen slightly different things and learnt different languages. So I was just really keen, having young kids at an age where you can kind of throw them into anything, to just relocate somewhere. And basically a job came up with my husband's work, which was in Luxembourg, so we thought, let's try it. So I quit my job last year and just moved with family and just been settling us in since. So yeah, it's cool.
And so how old are your kids?
So I've got a 3-year-old and a 6-year-old.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
And what was the kind of decision-making process around that move? Because that's a pretty big move. That's pretty brave for a lot of people to go to a country. Do either of you speak the language?
So I speak French, and my husband's Spanish, so he speaks Spanish.
Okay.
The kids speak a bit of a mishmash, bit of French, bit of Spanish, but they're not trilingual or bilingual. We're trying to get there, and it's just that basically my job sucked as well. I've been in IT for 20 years, and like IT is great, love it. I worked at a charity, it was brilliant, but 20 years, I just didn't want to get to 60 and know that I'd done 40 years of IT. And never changed and never done anything different. And we've been living in London. My husband had lived in London since he was born.
Yeah.
So 38 years. And so he was a bit like in a goldfish bowl. Was happy to get out. And and I thought I just wanted to if we were going to leave, why not just leave London, leave the country, and just try something new?
So it was quite a positive choice. You didn't wrangle about it for a while. When it came up, you were pretty decisive about it, or?
Yeah, it's weird. The seed got sown a couple of years ago, and
Right.
if something gets sown, it normally just pops back up at some point and happens.
I love that.
So yeah, I guess because it was bubbling away for a long while, it's not a surprise when you finally make the decision. But yeah, it's been a lot different to what we thought it was going to be. Like,
really?
Yeah, crazy. Like, London's such a hot pot of cultures. You think it's cosmopolitan and you think you get other cultures, but it's only when you actually sit in someone else's country and like do it their way, you're like, oh right, okay, there's some real differences. And it's brilliant and it's funny because you get all those moments when, like, lost in translation moments, when you've totally misunderstood something, either culturally or just like linguistically, and it's just quite funny. So, but then also really challenging sometimes. So, but yeah, it's good. We're getting there now.
That's brilliant. And is it, in terms of, I don't want to kind of feed you something that you're not thinking about, but my natural question would be timescale. Are you committed there now, or are you is there a window when you kind of come back, or?
Yes, it depends. Catch me on a good day and I'll be like, yeah, we're going to like travel the world, we're going to go to America, it's going to be great. And then catch me on a bad day and I'm like, yeah, London next month. No, I think we'll definitely be here for like another 2 years, 2 years.
Okay.
And then we might try somewhere else after that. It depends how it goes. Like, it depends how much we can educate the kids that home will always be London and you can always go back and see people, so they're confident to keep trying new things.
Yeah, got it.
Because kids don't bounce, or rather my kids didn't bounce. They just didn't bounce as easily as you kind of expect them to. So you just don't want to rattle them too much. But then at the same time, they're quite. I remember when I was traveling when I was a kid, you'd feel that kind of like anxiety or slight. You'd miss your friends, but it's very black and white. It's not this deep kind of like homesickness that I think you probably get as an adult. So it's not as complicated. So I think they don't bounce straight away, but I think long term they probably just get over it and like just roll with it, and then they get used to it. I hope.
Yeah. Okay, so what I usually do is try to get a bit of context, and just think about this. This is the stories of our lives, so it's kind of like a little bit of who you are now, but it's also just to get a little bit of context of who you are. So I'll start with where I usually start. Oh, actually, I've got to say this. God, every week I forget this. So I'm going to throw you something now, and I'm going to come back to it at the end of the interview. Okay? Right. So I'm going to ask you to think of a song. It can be anything you like, but a song. And at the end of the interview, I want you to tell me a story about a song that's meaningful for you. Okay?
Okay.
Cool.
Right.
That's all I'm going to say. So one of the things that this project's been really fascinating for me is to think about the relationships I have with people and just how they're structured or framed or whatever you want to call it. And it's been really fascinating, to deal with people. I say this every week, so apologies for everybody if it's boring, but whether they're family members or close friends or acquaintances, or like us, which is really interesting because I think we're really good friends, but we never see each other. We spent a long time together at uni, seeing each other on a daily basis, which kind of forms a kind of relationship. And then obviously you've gone your way and I've gone completely different direction. And we've seen each other, what I would say, maybe twice over the last 20 years or something like that.
Yeah.
But as we talked about before you came, before we started recording, there is that kind of straight back into that kind of intimate connection where you know someone so well and the mannerisms are still the same. And even though you've changed and you're a mum and you've got kids, you're still Anne-Marie to me. Do you know what I mean? Which is really funny. So my question into that is, can you speak into that for a little bit? That kind of just the nature of relationships and that kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, at the moment, I guess, particularly living overseas and only seeing people very rarely now, it's even more noticeable how when you do then see someone, how you just completely click back into where you were, but also it recharges your batteries. And just because I guess, and I probably, because I live overseas now, I'm more picky about who I have time to catch up with, because if we do go home, we find out of time, so you kind of have to choose. So it's kind of brilliant, because whilst everyone's amazing, you really get to kind of spend time with awesome people, and really you just feed off it. And I think maybe everyone's gotten more relaxed as they've gotten older. Like, I've definitely more relaxed more, and I'm probably a bit more open, I'd like to think, to hear what people have got to say, and I'm probably exploring my views in more. But then I feel freer to talk about it, probably because I'm a bit older and more mature, and so it just becomes like better and better. And yeah, I just think time doesn't matter at all. It's just, as long as people are cool and awesome, and you listen and you share, then it's all good.
That's really interesting. Yeah, I love that. It's fascinating that, you know, because there's a kind, like you say, because there's a finite amount of time, that it's almost like the time you spend is pretty focused and actually valuable time, because you know you're not going to be around for a while, and so that's really interesting. Yeah. Let's take it back to let's just have a little dip back into your you know, childhood, if you want to call it, whatever it is. So I it's funny, because I would never have remembered that about you, but the minute you said it, it was like, oh yes, you were so I want to say it's like a services child. But can you talk about the experience of having that kind of family and being on the move and whatever it consisted? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, it's cool. It's just great. I've just got really great memories, because we lived in France a lot, and we always used to keep going to and from Paris, because my dad speaks French. And like, if I think about where we lived, and I think about some of the things that went on, it's just like, that was like hard work, but it's still, I get really nostalgic for it. Like, I love hearing French. I love just being in a French speaking environment, which Luxembourg is. It's one of the languages they speak. Because it's so, there's different countries are so different in certain ways, which makes it hilarious. But then obviously there's this like real similarity, which gives you this real bond. So these strangers that you meet, you feel totally disconnected from, you see this amazing stuff that's totally different to you, but then at the same time, this is just like this bond, which is probably just human nature. I don't know, I guess you just, and I think always kids see things very simply, and I think I just saw that very simply as a child. So yeah, just loved it. And I mean, when we were kids, because my parents were in the services, they were away quite a lot, so we had a nanny helping us out, and they always picked a non-English speaking nanny, and you just think that'd be really tough. Like, and my brother was at boarding school, so I was literally like on my own with this like stranger who didn't speak my language. But it was cool, because I remember playing games and like the fun of sign language and trying to understand, and that all becomes an adventure. And I had a play date with my son yesterday with a French kid who didn't speak a lot of English, and I just reminisced. I saw that moment which I had as a kid.
I love that.
Yeah, and it's funny, I remember we lived in an apartment block, and I remember making friends with the girl on like the 5th floor. I was on the 1st floor. Every day after school we'd run to the window and sign at one another, and you just, like, as a kid, you just go into the zone where you just find play, and it's just awesome. And I just really, really wanted the kids just to be in a slightly different place, and also learn languages, because I think that's the other thing about Luxembourg. Everyone speaks like four languages or so here. Wow. Which is insane. And it's suddenly opens everything up a bit more, and it's just fun. And yeah, and it's weird, like apparently the French find the English accent, you know, when the French speak English, it just sounds so cool.
Yeah.
Apparently when we speak French with a heavy English accent, they think it's so cool. It's just like my husband, when he speaks French, I'm like, oh God, that's disgusting, stop. Because it's just, yeah.
But they love it.
It's just like, yeah, it's up there.
You know what? You said something really interesting. While you were talking there, what was flashing through my head was, wow, not much time to be self-conscious as a kid. You know what I mean? When you're you know, you're really in the moment, because you're having to kind of do a basic communication thing with like these different nannies that you've got and that thing. And that, in a way, I think that's why, I don't know, certain people kind of, I suppose, you know, when people are weighted down with their kind of stuff going on in their head and that kind of thing. And I think I was probably like that for quite a lot of my, my earlier life. But you've always been a really light spirit, I felt. You know what I mean? I've always felt that you were just, you know, you were very much you, and there wasn't a lot of drama with you. You were pretty straight about everything. And it's really fascinating to hear you talk about your childhood, which to me is like, wow, you know, like a lot of kids can be really self-conscious and a lot of time thinking about whether they're good enough and all that kind of stuff. It strikes me that you had this childhood where you were kind of having to work out how I say, can I have some toast or something? You know what I mean? Which is really interesting. Can you just flesh that out a little bit? It's like,
but yeah, I mean, but I guess that's the thing about language, which I think I'm starting to find more fascinating, is like how you communicate. And just because I remember going to a restaurant with my nanny and her fiance, and you know, like in the French restaurants, they've always got those paper tablecloths,
yeah,
and
right,
then us just getting pens and drawing all over the tablecloth to communicate. And it was awesome because my parents would never have let me do. But it was just, you just find those ways. And I guess it's just, but I've found that a lot though, as my kids are growing up, that as your kids get to certain junctions, I get flashbacks to how I was at that junction.
right,
and
right.
It's definitely like kids just do see things a lot more simply. And like, I guess it's just a colourful, fun.
Yeah. Were you aware of being like? I'm not sure about your schooling, like, but were you aware that your family was different because your parents were in the forces? Was that something you were aware of as a child, or did you have not really any awareness of that? Not
really, no, because I think when you're at an international school, everybody's different, which I'm actually finding with my son now. The funny thing is he's at an English international school, but he's actually the minority because Luxembourg's such an international place. But also a lot of people, when given the option, they want to send their kids to an English school to learn English. So he's actually a minority English speaker in his class. Everyone's speaking all these other languages. And I remember feeling a bit of a minority because I didn't speak other languages when I was a kid. And you have like all the French and the Italians and the Spanish and everything. And yeah, what your parents were doing, that wasn't really it. Like the exciting bit was the languages, and I'm starting to see that now. Like my kids, like their enjoyment of languages has just really gone up there. Like some of their favourite songs are like these weird not weird foreign songs, just foreign songs.
Yeah. That's really funny. When did you come back to? Because am I right in saying that your teen years were in Dulwich? Is that where you grew up?
No, teen years. So I came back. I was in France probably about 6 years out of 10, from 0 to 11. And then, because we were like on and off, we kept coming and going. And then basically came back and then went to boarding school, lived in Portsmouth, and then eventually moved to London and then to Cardiff. And then kind of always been moving around. Like, and that was another reason we moved, is because I'd been in London, I think, like on and off 20 years or something, I think.
Right.
And I was just and I'd gotten way too comfortable. I needed to kind of rip out, and just, and it was really hard to move because we were so secure and it was just so awesome in London. It was, but now I kind of almost feel like I want to keep us moving every now and then, so we never get too bedded down again. I don't know if that's right, but
that, you know what's really interesting, I mean, I'm assuming this, but did you move around a lot as a kid?
Well, yeah, we did. Yeah, we were always all over the shop, probably about every 2 or 3 years. But then also, like at boarding school, you change your room and your complete location in the school every term. So it's just always, you just constantly just like packing up your room and going. So it's weird. So I never really settled. I was always moving around, like living in Australia, living in Wales, like all over, and then flats in London, always moving. But in my last place, in our house, it was like 9 years. It's like, that was way too long for me. I was just like, right. But then I got really comfortable and it was lovely.
But you know what's really funny is that you said about 2 minutes ago, you said like, we're going to try and organise it so we move on a little bit, and that's just really funny because I've literally just had a conversation with my wife, which is a part of a ongoing conversation that we're having about what we're doing and kind of who we are and that kind of stuff. And it's really interesting to me as I get older. I'm trying. It's become apparent to me that I'm in a way, in my own way, trying to recreate my childhood. I grew up in a pub until I was 18.
You did, I remember, yeah.
It was all about harmony, and it was a very family-oriented pub. And I think I've got over my kind of intellectual ego because once you have kids, you kind of start. It's not about you anymore, And it seems that like what I'm trying to do now is kind of, to a certain extent, recreate that. You know what I mean? That kind of harmony and that kind of,
You're going to buy a pub?
No, that's what I'm saying. In my own way, it's really weird. I'm just trying to create a community like that is kind of like, you get on and you help each other and that kind of thing. And it's really fascinating to hear you say, quite interested to get us moving around. And it's like, I wonder if that's
exactly
a loop back to your childhood. You know what I mean?
How funny! I hadn't thought, and exactly, moving every 2 or 3 years. I'm like, I'll be here about 2 and 3 years. So, oh my god, I'm a mother.
Oh my god! Listen, I got a question for you. I got to ask this right away. Where's home?
Where's home?
Yeah.
So my husband's going to love this because a month ago, I'd have said London, like wholeheartedly London, but now. I'd probably just say home's with the family, like as long as I'm with the family.
I love that. Yeah.
Because awesome. One of my big dreams is to try and I don't know if it will happen, but hopefully this is the seed that I'm sowing, and in 7 years' time we'll chat about it. But I really want to try and take them out of school for a year and do a year around the world with the kids.
Right.
At some point, because I think that'd be amazing just to try and just see them, and I've sort of read a bit about it and read that the school system does allow it, and often when kids drop back in, actually they've just had this really rich education, which is as fulfilling as the normal education. So I think probably one of the growing points of that seed that I've kind of sown about trying to go traveling is trying to attune myself to let's just start moving around a bit more, and let's start like just getting out there and getting the kids used to just being in a tent and a car and just going places.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Thank you. That's fantastic. It's a fantastic insight into your life. This is the interesting thing for me. I think is that most of the people I've talked to, I've known. Some of them, to be fair, I haven't known at all. But the interesting thing has been what I think I know about people, and what's really interesting is that you make up a lot of the stuff you think you know about someone. You fill in gaps, you know what I mean? And it's really interesting when you find out, having a conversation like this, and you find out stuff you didn't know. And we've known each other for like 20 whatever it is, 5 years, in a way. And there's so much about you I have no clue about, and that's really just interesting in terms of what a relationship, a kind of friendship consists of, or an acquaintanceship consists of, or next door neighbours, or your cousin, or your brother, or whatever it is. What it actually consists of, the fabric of it is really, really fascinating.
But I guess that's a reflection of like the innate nature of a good friendship. Is that it almost doesn't matter what you know or don't know about the person. There's some sort of bond where you just get on and you entertain one another, and you interest one another. And I guess that's when you said about friends earlier on and about people and sort of interacting, I guess that's the thing I'm really starting to learn is it doesn't really matter. You just meet awesome people, and it's just good. But it makes it interesting. So sorry.
No. I was going to kind of with just a little fragment of your earlier years, but bringing it kind of up to date. Let's skip the Cardiff years because we might that gets a bit messy. I'm joking. But But, you know, you've got some cool stuff going on now. And obviously, you know, you've had this move, which I think is really brave because it's so easy to get kind of rooted into a place, especially when you've got young kids. And you've made a step and you've gone out there. And then you contacted me last week. You know, you're probably contacting a lot of people with your blog. So can you talk about that? Because that's so exciting. And I've loved you know, I love the spirit of it. I'm all about ethos and spirit. So when I see something like that, it's just like, it's like a tuning fork in my heart. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it resonates with me because I love what people are trying to do, and everybody, you know, a lot of people are trying to do stuff now because they think, I can't save the world, but I can do my bit. So can you talk about your blog and what your aims are?
So yeah, I guess, I mean, it's exactly what you've just said. It's just about trying to do my bit and trying to make a little bit of a difference. I don't know how it's grown really, really organically. Basically, this time last year, watched a documentary about sugar, and yeah, I've just always been like, oh, for God's sake, sugar, yeah, whatevs. And then I was like, oh shit, sorry, but I was like, yeah, that's not ideal. And then I'd love to say it was me. It wasn't. It was the TV. It was like, well, if you like this documentary, you might like this documentary. And then I just watched a whole series, and then like was just, my jaw dropped, and I realised what a tunnel I'd been in with work and just work, just normal day-to-day life. I just hadn't looked up and looked at what had been going on for the last 20 years, pretty much.
That's interesting.
And then I just just been aghast at realising how much needs to be done, probably from an environmental perspective, to help with climate change. And it also came, and also at the same time, because we decided to move, I then quit my job. So I probably was a bit more relaxed, and I also had this feeling that I just wanted to just read something else apart from what I'd been working at. And so it's all just kind of snowballed from there. And so yeah, the blog's basically I started it the night we arrived in Luxembourg, and I try to write once a week. And it's just kind of about our journey as a family, just trying to figure it out, and just trying to make a little bit of a difference. And yeah, it's really interesting because it's opened up a lot of conversations with people that maybe I wouldn't have spoken to before, and it's something that you said in one of your discussion groups about reading books, about just seeing other people's ideas and seeing other people's opinions and getting out of that, like you talked about like an echo chamber or something.
Yeah,
and it's just, I just feel like I've been ping-ponging around in that for a really long time, and also I've forgotten how much I love the environment and how important it is to me. And it's and I think since I've stopped work and we've moved, all these things that really interested me in my early 20s kind of come back to me. And so yeah, I've just been sort of reading more and more about it. And so yeah, it's just, and also I guess having kids, knowing it's that thing of like in 50 years time, when they're, you know, with their children, you know, it could be a very, very different world. And I would love it if they knew that their ancestors, or you know, that they had their backs and that they did everything that they could. So it started from a very individual perspective, but it's funny, like the ripple effect is fantastic. It's great.
Can you I'm gonna ask you to go a little bit deeper, if you don't mind, there, because that's really, really interesting. I mean, I've spent large periods of my life trying to control everything by overthinking it massively and getting no results at all. You know, and it's taken me a long time to get over that kind of intellectual ego that wants to be like, you know, the best at every single thing, so therefore doesn't do really anything because it's all too, you know, it's all too much. Can you just talk about that ripple effect? Because that's really, really interesting what you were saying. Like once you start doing something, and this is like, I'm just going to just talk to anybody that's watching. This is another one of those videos where someone's actually stood up and started to say, yeah, I'm gonna take a step, I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna start doing something, fuck the consequences, we're just gonna do something. And then, can you talk about those ripples, Annie? Because I love the idea of that.
Well, it's little things like, I love that when I chat to some mums now, say we're doing something, they'll be like, oh, well, I know it's not very environmental, I'm sorry. And yeah, it's no, you know, everyone's kind of joking around it, but it's nice that it's that nudge, it's like that thought of well, you know, and it sounds silly, like even if they just, I don't know, don't buy a plastic toy, buy a wooden toy instead. That'd be great.
Exactly.
So, but then I've got some awesome friends like Kath at uni. You know, she's been amazing and supportive, and she's always like, you know, what can I get? What environmental things can I do for the kids, for their birthdays or for Christmas? So it's just, you see people like that really embracing it, and just, yeah, and not because of me, because she's just, that's been her thought, but kind of web builds. But things like our landlord, we live in a block of flats here, and we've got an electric car, and we're trying to petition to get electric points installed in the building. And the reason I was late earlier is because the landlord popped up, and it's awesome. He's going to put one in for us, and it's going to go out to the whole block of flats. So anyone that wants to tap in and get one now, they can. And I'm trying to change the recycling bins in the block here, and it's just petty stuff like that. But anything to kind of, you just never know where it might reach. And like, that's why social media is amazing, because you do see those, like on my Instagram, I'm connected with people in the Caribbean who are doing eco packaging, and it's awesome when you see their stuff. And then you see them like something that you've kind of chatted about. It's like, as it brings the world closer. It's just, it's beautiful. And there's so much optimism out there about, you know, we can do it and you can get better. So it's just, there's just a lot of good energy. And
I love that. I just think that's, you know, that I think that's the thing. Again, it's just like, you know, make a start. It don't worry about what's going to happen and the results of it. I can really vouch for this, because I was trying to, you know, gerrymander my future success that I like, you know, hallucinated most of the time. And you know, it's all bullshit. You just got to start with something, whatever it is. Start doing a blog, start getting a class together. You know, it's really interesting. We've got the boys really kind of onto, you know, we've never been that bad at plastic bottles and that kind of thing, but we've made a thing now that no plastic bottles. You know, we're just doing that. And then when they come shopping with us, it's, you know, if you know, you can be our eyes to look at the kind of packaging we're buying. So if it's got a lot of packaging and you don't think it needs it, say something. You know what I mean? So they're getting attuned. They're getting attuned to just thinking in that way, because you know, it's not even necessarily. I mean, I think you're right about 50 years, definitely, but it's also them kind of being inculcated into a sense of like, you know, these are the right things to do. This is living blindly, and this is actually being aware of what you're doing. And it's like, completely. Because like the rubbish is like a really big thing with the kids. Just had this really interesting conversation about, you know, where does the rubbish go? And they're like, well, in the bin. And then the man collects it, and then it goes. And I'm like, but where does it, like, rubbish doesn't go anywhere. It stays in your world. Like, your world is this flow, and it stays there. And but I love it, because kids just, I don't know if it's, I mean, I don't know. I'm a mum of young kids, so I don't know whether I'm just, I don't know if I'm making it up half the time, I don't know, but it feels like if it's a good message, I am making it up, but it feels like if it's a good message, they kind of get it and it makes sense, and it's, and it kind of then also makes you think, this is just, it's sensible. Things that we're watching some videos about paper and about where does paper come from? It comes from the trees, and so they know, and they're like, oh, okay, and they're just, but then they look at you like you're an idiot to think otherwise, like, they're like, well, why would you buy plastic? Because the animals eat it and then they die, and it's just like, okay, cool, and they find ways to. They're quite, as soon as you teach them something, they absorb it and then they move on, and that's their new thing, which they do. So they know not to buy loads of junk and just consuming stuff for the sake of it. I think that's that mentality that we have, isn't it? It's like, buy it, use it for a bit, throw it away, buy it, use it for a bit, throw it away. It's an insane cycle. Yeah, and the thing is, we're exactly that generation that have done that. Exactly. Our parents weren't like that. I'm glad that you included me in your generation. I feel quite privileged that you have. We've caught up with one another now, so yeah. Right. But it's really funny, you know. It's really, this is honestly true. Last week we were having conversations about rubbish, and we were talking about, you know, plastic bottles and rubbish, and my older son was kind of he was really grappling with this. So he kept coming up to me saying, "I know how we can sort this out. You know, we what we need to do is get it all." And it was really funny. Like, we get it all in a big box and then we burn it. And I'm like, right, okay, you know, and then we're talking about like how much of the world is producing rubbish and all that kind of stuff. And then it was really funny, his reaction. So I said, but do you know though, if you burn plastic, it gives off, you know, and if you burn anything really, it gives off lots of gas, and that gas goes into the air. And he was like, oh God. And it was almost like, gotta go back to the drawing board. You know what I mean?
That's amazing. That's amazing. But just genius that he's thinking that. Like, that's the generation.
Exactly.
And, you know, and the crazy thing is, like, I mean, like you say, it won't be 50, even like 20 years time.
Yeah.
You know, we'll be looking back on ourselves thinking, it's insane, like how we used to behave. I mean, even now, I look back at a year ago, you know, I used to drink fizzy water out of plastic bottles, and used to righteously take out my recycling bags and be like, look how much I'm recycling. It's like, bullshit, it's not recycling. You're just like, yeah.
Okay, I totally get it. So at this point, I'm going to kind of just shift in, and I'm going to ask you a few questions. I'm going to throw a few strange questions, questions that we might not hopefully get to deal with on a day-to-day basis. The first one is one of my favorite things to think about, is how we be our better selves. It's kind of the nature of the conversation we've been having already. But it's like, I've always been fascinated by, you know, what's human flourishing? What is it when we really shine? What is it when we're really flourishing or thriving? Whatever the word is. Can you? What's your take on that? What is it when you flourish? And what do you think? Yeah, you know, to flourish. What's that for you, Annie?
To flourish, I guess it's new experiences and listening. Just
listening.
Yeah, just listening, because I have a lot of opinions and I judge an awful lot, and it's not a good trait. But I feel like I know I'm flourishing is when I open up and I can actually listen to people and really listen.
Wow.
Like, someone's talking to you, you really listen, and then you almost do get a new experience through them, like through listening. 'Cause it might be something that you then think, oh, I'm going to go do that, or you've just heard something new or different. So I think, yeah, it's just real openness to listen.
I love that, and you've nailed much more articulately than I did at the beginning exactly what this project is all about. Because I sit in this position and I try and be as non-judgmental as possible, and it is just blissful. I mean, I know that sounds really cheesy, but it's genuinely, I get really out there when I just listen to people talk about their lives. I love it. And you know, you've just absolutely nailed it. So thank you for that. I'll plagiarize that and use it on the front of my website.
But you know, it's a pleasure to listen. Like, it's really interesting listening to you and your interviews with all these people, because it's just really fascinating. You just get, as an audience, you get a lot.
Good.
I mean, not suggesting anyone's going to get a lot from this, anyway.
Annie, what's gratitude to you? What are you grateful for?
Probably an opportunity to sit back and reflect, like the opportunity we're having at the moment as a family to see new things and experience all of that. That's hugely fortunate, and feel really lucky. And like the chance to be able to change the course of where we're going and do something completely different for the next 20 years is just, really.
That's pretty cool. So this question I tend to ask every time. It's a very serious question. Annie, what are we doing here?
What are we doing here?
Yeah.
What on? Gosh, that is hard. Just trying to be happy, I think. Just trying to have an awesome life. Just be happy. I think that's the ultimate goal for everybody, really. And there's lots of different ways to reach that happiness, but I guess you just look at your kids, and when you see them playing around or singing to themselves, that's really, I don't know, I guess life is supposed to be fun. Like, it's not supposed to be about getting bogged down in the crap that's going on. It's about trying to say, that's not ideal. Okay, cool. Either change it or move away from it, but just try and be a bit more happy. And like, that's not my innate nature. You know, my husband and my kids are really happy-go-lucky, and I think that's got to be your purpose. I think everything flows out from there. I think if people are happy, they're more in harmony, they take care of things, they're more open, you know, things might go wrong, but they're more willing to fix things. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. And you know what? I'm going to, I hope you don't mind, but I'm going to, you know, it's so funny that you should answer it like that, because just, I don't know, there's a core of people in it. You know, so just being in the spirit of honesty and kind of openness, which these talks are, you know, the kind of structure of them is being pretty honest. I had a lot of dramas when I was younger. I was very in my head. I used to get, you know, very caught up with a lot of thinking about how things should be. It just a continuity link from you now to back in 1996 or whenever it was. So I was going through one of these particular dramas at this time, and Annie brought me round one day a book. I don't know if you remember. Do you remember that you bought me a book?
What book?
And the book was this. I've still got it. I still look at it sometimes. It's this book, and it's by this illustrator guy whose name I don't know. But he basically, the book is called Be Happy. Being Happy. I've still got it on my bookshelf. And you bought me a copy of this book and came around, and it was just fascinating, because I'm about I don't know, I'm about 8 years older than you, and so I was like, you were probably about 19 or 20, and we'd obviously been friends for a couple of years, maybe 3 years by then, and you could see this like man in his late 20s just completely covered in like the shit of his life, you know what I mean, completely sunk in his thoughts, and you were just the joie de vivre kind of like, and you brought this book round to me and you gave me this book, and honestly I think that was such a pattern interrupt for me at the time. I mean, I didn't, you know, it took me another 15 years to actually take it seriously, you know what I mean, but I think what's really fascinating is that you've answered this question, and like a lot of people take a long time to answer that question, what are we doing here? And you've gone with that answer, which is just so in tune with who you were 20 odd years ago. That's just hilarious to me, you know, it's so lovely. I'll kind of almost welling up. That's so brilliant. Goosebumps. I'm going to get that book out later. That's hilarious. It's that's brilliant. I just love that. Okay, so this is a secret. I haven't really been talking to many people about this, but I've been working on a very small time machine, which I've actually got, and I've managed to get it going. Now, I'm going to lend it to you for just a couple of minutes, and I'm going to send you back to talk to Anne-Marie McHugh. Is that right? Yep. Yeah. At, you know, sort of somewhere of your choice before the age of about 13, somewhere around anywhere you like. What are you going to, you've only got a couple of minutes. So you have to be really succinct. What are you going to say to her, Annie? Wow. Take your time. Just take your time. I rush everywhere. I'm always like, I can't. And I just think, yeah, just take your time. But yeah, that would be it. And just to listen. And probably like ask for help. Like you don't have to do it all on your own. Like wow, that's huge. Because I look at my daughter now, and she's just like, don't help me, and you're just like, God. And I'm like now 40, and I'm like, it's so much easier if you do just like let people help you. You could probably take your time more if you let people help you. It would complement. Like, yeah, right. But yeah, I think of all the questions this is my favorite bit of these conversations. It's asking these questions, and I think my favorite one is that because people. One of the points of this whole thing is that there's so much noise that, you know, that superficial noise that separates us, and that is kind of, we focus on the kind of minutiae of stuff that is, you know, I don't like you because you're this color, or I don't like you because you wear this jumper, or you support this person, and you said once about this person. And underneath it all, if we could sort of like funnel that out a little bit for a while, underneath it all, we're all people that are just trying to get through our lives, trying to tell our stories. We want people to take us, you know, as who we are. And there's so much that that holds us together. And the amount of people that answer that question you've just answered so sincerely, but with that kind of experience of being older, and just saying stuff like take your time, or it's going to be okay, or don't worry so much. It's so fascinating. It's really blows my mind.
Yeah, and it's just funny, and it'll be the same pattern again. Our kids, like, I can see my daughter.
Exactly.
Yeah. But it's all good. I mean, because we're all good in the end. So yeah.
I love that. And I genuinely, I didn't believe that for a long time, but I do believe that now. And I think we're all right, actually, all the time. We get caught up in a lot of thinking about stuff, but I think actually fundamentally we're all pretty sound underneath.
That's why getting out's good, though. I think, like, you think how much more chilled out we all are now than we were 20 years ago. It's like, I'm gonna love retirement. I'm gonna be like horizontal. It's gonna be amazing.
Okay, so my final point is, tell me a story about a song, Annie.
Right. So I don't know if it's a story so much. It's just a song that I like to play, which has always come back to me over 20 years. And it's Last Train to Laza by Banco de Gea. And it's just a beautiful song with a train sound in the background, and it just reminds me of traveling, because I've always listened to it when I've been traveling, and then again over the years, and it's kind of my go-to chill out song, which it's like an old friend almost. It's always been there. Whenever I'm a bit like, ooh, I'll just sort of put it on, and it's like, it just takes me back to that happy place, which is traveling, which is kind of looping back to where's your home. And it's like, well, so long as you're happy and you're with what's important to you, that's kind of, you'll be all right, and it'll all be okay. And I guess that song brings that feeling to me. So yeah,
that's so cool. I love that. That's a beautiful way to end it. I mean, it's really funny because you've looped back into kind of,
it's the loop back.
You loop back into positive nostalgia and traveling, and it's just perfect. It's a perfect way to end it. It's brilliant. Listen, do you mind if I link put a link to your blog well, I'll let you see this, obviously, and then you can say yay or nay. But if we share it, is it okay to link your blog to it and just mention that?
Absolutely. Yep, absolutely. And thank you so much. It's I mean, all of the people that you've spoken to have said about how meaningful this has been to them, and I'm already feeling that it's been really, really lovely, and just really good to see you.
It's good to see you again. The next time you're back, I mean, no, let me not say that, because that's crazy. I'm not going to wedge myself into your very finite period of time that we talked about. But when you get back and you're here for a while, I'd really like us to hook up at some point, and maybe we could even get the kids to meet and everything like that.
That'd be amazing.
That would be so cool. You're a brilliantly, no, what's the word I'm looking for? You're just a beautifully spirited person, and I meant what I said in when I wrote about your blog last week, and it's been so good to see you again, and just lovely to talk to you. So
thank you.
Take it easy, and good luck out there. keep writing the blog.
Yeah, will do.
All right, Annie.
Thanks, Frank.
All right, take it easy. Thanks very much. See you later.